Am I in the presence of the ghost of seasonal anime yet to come? Spirit, I fear you more than any specter I have yet met, but I am prepared to follow and to learn with a thankful heart. So, Spirit, will you not speak to me? Spirit, your handwriting needs work. Give me a moment here. Every 13 years, a new director will adapt a 4-panel comic about girls in a band. And it will be the best thing that I see for the next 13 years? You can't just leave, Spirit. It's been 13 years since K-On! What is it that awaits me in the seasons yet to come? Please, don't go, Spirit! Whoa! Ah! Oh, it was just a terrible dream. Oh, well, thank heavens. You there, you, out my window. Tell me, what day is it?
Who, me? Why, it's Bocchi Saturday.
It's Bocchi Saturday. I haven't missed it. 2022 is the year that I became a seasonal anime watcher again. But whether it was the unhinged golf mafia drama of Birdie Wing or the Hideo Kojima approved Licorice Recoil, every season in 2022 delivered something that had me thinking, that was one of the best shows I've seen in a couple years. All of that leading into the fall season with shows like Spy Family, Chainsaw Man, and Mob Psycho. And honestly, you could have taken most of the shows airing that season, tossed their names into a hat, picked out one, and I would have said, yeah, that's probably going to be my favorite show of the year. And yet, I'm sitting here writing a script about a show that I wasn't looking forward to, but is now sitting firmly as one of the best pieces of media, not just anime, but media, that I've watched in many years. There are a lot of different things to talk about with Bocchi the Rock. For example, you could focus on the animation and production. The show is the directorial debut of Keiichiro Saito, who had accumulated an impressive resume as both a key animator and episode director prior to taking on his first director role here. Saito and the young team that he brought along to the project used the combination of effective comedic timing, clever references, and creative animation techniques to create something truly special. I could go on and on about it really, but more informed writers have already put out pieces and videos covering the animation style of the show and what exactly makes it so impressive. You could also talk about how good the music in the show is. After all, Bocchi the Rock is a show about a band. And the self-titled debut album of the show's fictional band, Kesoku Band, the name being a pun on zip ties, topped Japanese music charts and even landed on Spotify's global debut album chart at number 4. Not bad for a band that doesn't actually exist. However, maybe it's not as surprising when you realize that the composing credits for that album include members of the bands Kanabun, Tricot, and the Peggies. If those bands mean anything to you, well, you already know. And if you don't know, well, go ahead and pause this video and go look them up. Really, it's fine. I will wait here patiently until you get back. I'll even do it for you, so go ahead and do it. Oh, you're back. The comedy, the music, and the animation are all exceptional. But a lot of series, and especially series that are centered around music, also check those boxes. So what is it that sets Bocchi apart? At a glance, it looks like it belongs in the crowded field of shows about cute girls doing cute things. And I do have to confess, I do love me a show about cute girls doing cute things. And I must confess that there is a box of Love Life merchandise locked away somewhere in my basement, not unlike the devil in the classic Twilight Zone episode The Howling Man. However, if you're willing to go one layer deeper, there are a few elements that do set Bocchi apart from these contemporary series. First, unlike some seemingly similar works where the characters are largely defined by their relationships to each other and by default fail the Plinkett test, the central characters in Bocchi the Rock are largely independent from one another. They each have their own motivations, goals, and arcs that function separately from the other characters in the group. At times, they even feel like they've been pulled from different shows. They sometimes feel so different that I can imagine 4 different shows following the same sequence of events but following a different one of these characters. And each of those shows would stand on its own with unique characterization and tone. Take Kita, for example. She has the least experience with music of anyone in the group, and being a cheerful extrovert seems more tuned to a lighthearted comedy show, maybe similar to K-On! Meanwhile, a show centering on Rio could have a more serious tone, following an introverted character looking to express herself via songwriting. Following Nijika could turn the show's focus into the logistics of managing a band, particularly when that band has aspirations of making it professionally. And as interesting as each of those shows could be, we don't follow any of those characters. Instead, we get to follow Hitori Goto, aka Bocchi, a lonely extrovert with crushing social anxiety that prevents her from being able to express herself or make connections with people. And having that sense of distance between characters opens up the space for the show's themes about communication, connection, and the existential terror of being known. And it's those themes that made this project appealing to Saito in the first place. And this is where I'm going to drop a spoiler warning if you haven't watched the show and you do care about that kind of thing. So if you are that kind of person, go ahead, pause again, or even close out the video, go watch the show, and come back. I promise I will still be here. Bocchi the Rock opens with a montage of Hitori's school life up until middle school. She's a lonely kid, struggling to make connections with other people. One day, while watching TV with her dad, she sees a member of a band talking about how bands are a place where even introverted or shy people can find success. And with that in mind, Hitori commits to learning guitar. And she does commit. She grinds for hours a day, for years, all the while imagining a shining future where people are going to pack arenas just to listen to her play. She grinds so hard that she reaches the skill level of a professional guitarist within a couple of years. She also starts a YouTube page where she uploads covers of popular songs under the moniker Guitar Hero, and by the time we start off with the events of the series, that channel has grown a sizable following in the tens of thousands. Meanwhile, middle school has passed her by, and she has gotten no closer to joining a band or making any friends. What struck me with this setup is the mismatch between what Hitori says that she wants and her projected route of getting it. She wants to make connections with people, but her plan is just to get so good at something that people will come to her. What she's imagining are instrumental relationships, where she is entertaining and ergo useful to other people. And look, if I didn't deal with a lot of social anxiety myself, I wouldn't primarily interact with the internet via a digital puppet and voiceovers, like I'm doing right now. I've gone through this myself, and I used to think that if I got good enough at something, then people would want to be my friends. But what I found was that those relationships were often unfulfilling, and often ended if I ever took a break or if my performance started to fall behind. But there is an appeal to these kinds of instrumental relationships. When the bad brain creeps up and makes you doubt whether people really want you around, it's comforting to be able to point to something concrete and say, that right there, that is the reason that people want to be around me. It's because I am so good at X. In the case of the show, X being good at guitar. But there's another appeal to these as well. These kinds of relationships don't require any risk or vulnerability on your part. As long as Hitori is good enough at guitar, as long as she's constantly impressing people, she doesn't have to change or challenge herself in any way. What she's really describing with this process is building a fan base more so than making friends. But what's really cool about this show is that from the jump, it knows that even if Hitori hasn't figured it out herself yet. Jumping back to the show, Hitori keeps up with her passive approach in her attempts to make friends, and unsurprisingly, it doesn't work. And yes, I did feel personally attacked by the sequence where she brings her guitar to school and wears a bunch of band merchandise in the hopes that someone will talk to her about it. It may or may not be uncomfortably close to something that I've done in the past for the exact same reason. Well, anyway, fast forward to Hitori sitting alone by herself in a park feeling sorry for herself when a passing girl from a different school sees her guitar and runs up to ask Hitori to fill in for her band's missing guitarist on short notice. Unable to say no due to her social anxiety, Hitori plays the concert and discovers the central dilemma of the show. Even though she is an excellent guitarist when playing by herself in the comfort of her own room, her anxiety keeps her from being able to translate that into playing in front of other people. In short, she sucks. Her anxiety and loneliness also earn her the nickname Bocchi as a pun on her name. Hitori plus Bocchi equals Hitori Bocchi, which is Japanese for all alone. Let's take a second though and revisit the starting premise of the show. If I get good, then people will like me. Right away, from the first episode, the show is chipping away at that idea. Even though she can't play well, the other band members still welcome her. It wasn't her skill as a guitarist that got her closer to making connections with other people, it was her willingness to be vulnerable and take risks. In fact, the other members of the band like her despite the fact that as far as they know, she does kinda suck at this. From that point on, Hitori ends up working with her bandmates at the venue owned by Nijika's older sister, the runaway guitarist rejoins the band as a vocalist to complete their ensemble, and a bunch of other stuff happens. Really, just go watch the show. In addition to the show's themes about communication and connection, Saito and his team brought another element into the adaptation that defines Bocchi the Rock for me. At no point is Hitori ever made the punchline of a joke, and her problems are always treated as real problems. Even in moments where her anxiety is used as a catalyst for a comedic moment, the show is never mean about it. And take this moment, for example, where she realizes that she's the first person to show up at work, and so she waits and she waits and she waits for someone else to show up. As a viewer, I never feel like I'm being invited to laugh at her. If anything, I feel like I'm being invited to laugh at myself, having done this exact same thing before. In the 3 times that I've watched this scene with my partner, again with friends, and then again with my partner's family on Christmas Day, when she brought it up as something that she thought her family would want to watch, every single time the people that I've been watching it with have seen this scene and groaned because they've done the same thing too. On top of treating her problems as real, regardless of how minor they might seem in an objective sense, her successes are also always treated as successes. In this same episode, Hitori finds herself working at a customer service job and struggling to make eye contact with people. By the end of the episode though, she sort of gets over that hurdle, having a stilted exchange with the customer, but it's still treated as a win. In this moment, it would have been very easy to have another character joke about how she was still so awkward despite putting in so much effort, but this isn't that kind of show. Even if her problems are all in her head, the show never treats them as exaggerated or minor. As one of my favorite bands, AJJ, say in the wonderful song, "People too, still peoplein'," if it's all in your head, that's still very terrible. Hitori herself slots very easily into the archetype of a joke or a mascot character, and the source material and this animation adaptation would both still be very good if that were the case. But instead, it's the kindness and the sincerity that she's treated with that elevates those works from very good to phenomenal. Even as the comedy gets absurd and the characters are drawn off model, it only highlights these small character moments and makes them land that much harder. Yes, it's a lot of fun to see the team delve into increasingly abstract depictions of Hitori's anxiety, but it's the absence of those depictions that highlights those quiet moments and creates the space for these emotional beats to ring out. It makes that silence of Hitori sitting alone with her anxiety and her self-depreciation that much more poignant. And if this show followed any other character, we probably wouldn't get these moments of introspection that form the emotional core of the show. There isn't a moment in the show that ties all of these elements better together than one of the later episodes leading up into Kesoku Band's first concert. As anybody who's been in or around bands knows, playing a show means selling a target number of tickets that's set by the house. If the band sells less than that target, they pay the difference. It's called a quota. It's a very normal part of being in a band. But for somebody with crushing social anxiety and not enough family members to sell tickets to, this is basically all 12 trials of Hercules rolled into one. Hitori skips practice in part because she's too embarrassed to tell the rest of her band that she's not going to be able to meet her portion of the quota, and also to desperately try to find some way to sell those tickets. In her mind, if she can't deliver on this, then the rest of the group is going to reject her. Remember, in her mind, acceptance is contingent on performance. Along the way, she meets a functional, large question mark, alcoholic bassist who, after hearing about the situation, comes up with an elegant solution. The two of them will do a street concert, right here and right now. And while all of this is happening, the perspective periodically jumps over to the rest of the band, who, rather than practicing, are instead talking about Hitori. But unlike what Hitori herself might assume, they don't have anything negative to say at all. Instead, they're talking about how much fun they have with her. Now, again, just to really hammer this here, all this kindness and all this compassion is happening despite the fact that, as far as they know, Hitori is a bad guitarist. Back at the street concert, Hitori is clearly anxious about performing when her mysterious life coach drops the hardest line in the series. The people in front of you aren't opponents you're fighting, and don't get it twisted who your enemies are. As they play, Hitori at first can't bring herself to even look up at the crowd. She can already barely play in front of her friends, and now she's trying to play in public, in front of strangers, and with another stranger who has not stopped drinking since they met. Remembering what her life coach said, she brings herself to look up just a little bit. And all she sees is a crowd of people that want to listen to her play. There's no one laughing at her, and no one wants to see her fail. This one scene is the entirety of what this show is about. From the first scene of the first episode, Hitori has always imagined herself as being separate from other people. Specifically, she's always imagined herself as being worse than other people and consequently undeserving of kindness unless she's able to justify it to herself via her performance. Even when she first met Nijika, Hitori started to compare the two of them. Nijika is the very image of what Hitori thinks a high school girl should be, and she uses that to put herself down and create separation between herself and this person who, up to this point, has really only been friendly to her. Without realizing it, she's been putting up walls between herself and other people instead of doing what she set out to do, making connections. After adding up 2 and 2, she picks up her playing, meets her ticket quota, and later finds out that Hiyori, this mysterious woman that helped her along the way, was herself a gloomy and socially anxious teenager, even though in Hitori's mind, she seems superhuman right now. I want to contrast this against a similar character in a very different show, Yukiko Hagiwara in the original Idolmaster. Like Hitori, her character is defined by anxiety. Specifically, she's afraid of public performances, men, and dogs. As the title of the show suggests, The Idolmaster is a show about idols, which means that her anxiety makes her seemingly a very poor fit for this job. Unlike Bocchi the Rock, which tends to focus on a smaller group of characters, The Idolmaster has a much larger ensemble cast. Each character has an introduction episode in the first half of the series. Yukiho's episode lays out her anxiety, self-depreciation, as well as her desire to change. If you dig a little bit into the background of the series, you also find out that the only reason she's even at this agency is because a friend turned in an application on her behalf. Toward the end of the episode, she gets a chance to save a disastrous performance, which should show the viewer that she does actually have what it takes to be an idol. But once that episode is over, as with most of the characters in The Idolmaster, she folds into being either a one- or a two-dimensional side character. We rarely hear from her, and when we do, it's usually to make a joke at her expense about her anxiety, usually in the form of her trying to bury herself in a hole. In the second half of the show, the format changes and we start to follow Haruka as a prospective character. Even though Yukiho does get a standout moment where we get to see her perform in front of a large crowd, it doesn't have the same degree of emotional catharsis as that introductory episode. Because we've only been able to see the start and the end of her journey, and we haven't been able to visit with all those intermediary steps that got her from the shy girl we met to this all-star performer. Hitori, in contrast, has a similar moment toward the end of the adaptation of Bocchi the Rock. It's the band's first show together and things are not going well. A storm has made it difficult for their friends and family to make it to the show, and the people that are there are not there to see them and are not particularly impressed by the performance. Even as they play, Hitori notices that her bandmates are getting more and more deflated. And if things don't turn around, it's likely that their first concert is also going to be their last. And it's in this moment that Hitori slams her pedal board and is able to, for the first time, set aside her anxiety and play the way that she wants to. And it's not because she's trying to impress anybody. She just doesn't want her band to break up. She wants to support her friends that have been supporting her all this time. And in all of those fantasies that we've seen up until this point about her being a rock star, she has always been in the spotlight. But in this moment, she's able to succeed because she's putting the future of her band ahead of herself. It is a stunningly effective moment, not just because of the quality of the music and the animation, but because we as viewers have had the chance to sit with her and see all of the little steps and all of the vicarious embarrassments that have allowed her to get up to this point. We also know that this one moment isn't going to fix her. It's just one more step in her journey to becoming the person that she wants to be. There's a lot more I could go on about, but the script is already getting to be kind of long. But I want to close on a point here. There's another HHA song lyric that I think about pretty often. Probably because it's framed on my wall right next to the Digimon the movie soundtrack. And that's, "It's harder to be yourself than it is to be anybody else." And that's a sentiment that runs through Bocchi the Rock. Hattori starts off thinking that she needs to be somebody else in order for people to like her. Instead, it's only when she's able to take risks and be herself around people that she makes progress towards her goal. Whenever she puts herself out there, she finds that the world is a kinder place than she thought it was. Other people see things in her that she doesn't see in herself. She might not feel that she lives up to her online moniker of Guitar Hero, but to her bandmates, she's exactly that. It's the sincerity that this show treats Hattori's issues with that make this show so special. And that's what I've got for this time. Wait, hold up. My manager's holding up a card for me to read. Okay, don't forget to say like, comment. I can't read your handwriting. All right, I'm just gonna end it Anyway, that's what I got for this time. Maybe by the time I finish editing this, there'll be a season 2 announcement. Or even better, maybe Yamaha will finally fill all of those back orders on translucent black 611 VFMs. It's no problem finding that exact same guitar with any other finish. I can't imagine what could have possibly happened to make that one guitar in that one finish suddenly so popular. Well, until then, be nice to yourself.